You're listening to All in the Industry, an independent podcast dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry, hosted and produced by me, Shari Bayer. Since initially launching in 2014, we have broadcast more than 400 episodes, and now we're excited to be on our new platform. To learn more, visit allintheindustry.com. Support for this episode comes from Bayer Public Relations, a full-service PR, consulting, and marketing agency based in New York City, specializing in culinary and hospitality. Founded in 2003 by me, Shari Bayer, we are a company built on dedication, integrity, and positive thinking, combined with a genuine passion for what we do. BPR, be seen, be heard, be known. To learn more, visit BayerPublicRelations.com. Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer, and this is our 402nd episode of this series, which is dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry. Today, my guest is an outstanding chef and restaurateur who has concepts in Philadelphia as well as Wilmington, Delaware, and he's here in New York City with me today for a special reason, which we will get to. And I will introduce him fully in a moment. First, as I do on every show, I will start out with my PR tip, and then later we will have my speed round game, industry news discussion, solo dining experience, and the final question. As the founder of Bayer Public Relations, I'm going to tip the show off with my PR tip of the week. So today's tip is to embrace the new. Yes, be open to experiencing life differently and with a fresh perspective, moving forward with an open mind and spirit. Sometimes it's hard to let go of the past and change our habits, and the unfamiliar can feel uncomfortable. But let's remember that it's good to take chances and try new things, and that any unease shall pass, as everything does with time. So let's set goals and create plans of action and focus on opportunities ahead, knowing that new beginnings will be good for us in the end. That's my tip today. Okay, so I'm excited about this first show on our new All in the Industry platform. If you are a new listener, welcome. And if you are a regular listener, welcome back. Happy to have you all here. If you are wondering why this is episode 402 and not episode 1, well, I've been hosting and producing this All in the Industry show since 2014 on another network, and this is a continuation of that series. If you would like to go back to our archives, we do have 401 episodes to date with leaders in our dynamic hospitality industry, including Danny Meyer, Massimo Bottura, Thomas Keller, Ruth Reichel, Alain Ducasse, Carla Hall, Rita Jamay, Rodolfo Guzman, Tom Colicchio, Virgilio Martinez, Drew Newport, John George. I could go on. Very honored to have all of these outstanding people as a part of my show. And I'm excited to keep going. You can find all of our past episodes now at allintheindustry.com, and all of our new shows will be there as well. You can also find all of our shows wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just look for our All in the Industry name and logo if you haven't already, but you're here, so you found us. And subscribe so you don't miss any new shows. Thank you as always for being part of All in the Industry. Okay, so I'm excited to kick off this new show today with my guest who is here with me in New York City. It is Tyler Akin. He's the founder of Form Function Hospitality and a chef partner of Bastia, a new cafe by day and Mediterranean restaurant by night at the Hotel Anna and Bell in Philadelphia's Fishtown neighborhood. And it was just named one of the best new restaurants in America 2024 by Esquire magazine, and the best new restaurant in Philadelphia 2024 by Eater Philadelphia. Tyler also oversees the hotel's cocktail bar, Coletta, and he is a chef partner at French Brasserie Le Cavalier at the historic Hotel DuPont in Willington, Delaware. His own previous ventures included the acclaimed Stock and Fish Town and Res Ipsa Cafe, which garnered national recognition and cemented his reputation as a key figure in Philadelphia's culinary scene. Without further ado, hi, Tyler. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. It's listening to the names you've had on here before, I feel like a total imposter right now, but
no,
it's an honor.
You're right in line with leaders in our hospitality industry, and I'm honored to have you on the show. So thank you.
401 episodes that's astonishing. So congrats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry for such the long intro, but had to be done.
Of course. Yeah.
But this is exciting. We're here in New York City together. We will get to where we're going later tonight. The reason you're here besides to do my podcast. But I always like to start with my guests and find out how they got into the industry and what led you to become a chef. So take us back, please.
So I dropped out of law school after 1 year, after quickly discovering that my kind of ADHD tendencies were not, going to match well with the lawyer lifestyle. I sitting in classes just found myself daydreaming about something that felt a little more exciting. So I began dating a girl whose family had a hospitality background with the Let Us Entertain You group in Chicago, and they had relocated to Delaware for work, and their family was like super all about food. From the 14-year-old sister who baked prodigiously to, dad who managed a country club. It was very much a huge part of their family. And it was a part of my family for sure too, but not in a professional sense. So, I moved down to DC with her and was kind of really trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life, and started going to these farmers markets that Fresh Farm put on around DuPont Circle, Penn Quarter, White House, et cetera. And there was this guy who showed up at these various markets with this huge array of artisanal breads and pastries, like beautiful classical French pastries. And, I started just by approaching him and asking if I could help him sell his wares at these markets. And then quickly it became, I want to learn how to make this stuff. So he invited me to come out, start spending time at his bakery in the Panhandle of West Virginia, which I would do, go out there and stay for a couple nights and then drive a van in to sell the bread. And it really became like my lifestyle was sort of working for Wes Lanham's bakery. Over time started doing some work on his catering side, found myself a lot more, engaged with knife work and, blending and things like that, building soups. Then I found myself, on the bread shaping bench for 6 hours at a time, maybe feeling like that was a little bit monotonous. So he encouraged me to go to culinary school. I did that in DC. And that was kind of the beginning of my road into restaurants.
And around what year is this?
We're talking I think I started baking with Wes around 2008. Yeah.
Okay, so you started with baking and then into the culinary, more savory side of things.
Yeah, so Wes's background was actually as a chef as opposed to a baker. He had spent a career as, a senior chef at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. Like some of the war stories that he had were just amazing. I mean, they expected every sous chef to know how to carve ice professionally, that would be part of the decor on the resort.
So you carve ice?
I don't. No, I did not receive that.
He does, though.
He certainly did. And, it was kind of, I remember going to this very classical French culinary school where the whole faculty was like ex-White House chefs, ex-French embassy chefs. They were all Frenchmen. And there was this huge emphasis on tournang vegetables, right? Like those little football-shaped potatoes and carrots and things like that.
I learned how to do that.
Yeah, right? It's
Not
like
to say I got good at it.
It's one of those things that a lot of us kind of know how to do, and we had to at some point. But it is sort of dated.
Yeah.
And you don't see it very often. But, for him, while he was at the Greenbrier, like the way he described it was essentially any down minute that you had where you were not actively prepping something else or working a station during service, you were tourneing vegetables. So that was his background, was very much in the kind of, brigade mold at Greenbrier. And, when we were preparing for catering gigs that he had, lobby shops and wealthy people in the DC area, we were expected to kind of maintain this standard that was very high that he established, in his bakery. And I really found myself loving that, like being held to a standard like that. And I think he saw that and encouraged me, strongly to go to this culinary school. So I did.
In DC?
In DC, yeah. It's now defunct, actually, unfortunately, because, some great folks like Katsuya Fukushima and Aaron Silverman and Carla Hall all went to this school.
It's a good list.
Called Academy de Cuisine. And a ton of, folks who maybe aren't quite as famous as them, but are very much part of the backbone of the DC, culinary scene, went to this school. And unfortunately, a couple of years before the pandemic, around Christmas time, there was a story in the Post, I guess, that, it had sort of quickly and abruptly unraveled. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it kind of left a lot of the faculty, sort of out in the street, not out in the street, but without a job right before the holidays. And, just kind of sad that we're all kind of carrying this token around with us that doesn't feel quite rooted any longer, but it was an amazing place for what it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, just from the names that you listed, I mean, everyone's done very well.
Yeah.
So,
and you know
together.
DC well, right? Like
I know DC pretty well. Before the pandemic, I mean, I've been working with him on and off for years, but I was working with Eric Brunner Yang at the Line Hotel and Spike Jardie. I was actually doing PR for all of the food and beverage at the hotel.
Amazing.
And so I was taking trips, I don't know, every couple of months and staying at the Line. It was beautiful property.
For sure.
And of course, as I like to dine out, I got to eat around town every time. Yeah. So I feel now I've only been once in the past few years, and I feel I don't know DC as well. I've been to Philly more, even though I'm due to come to your restaurant and visit. But so DC, wait, are you originally from, where did you grow up? DC?
I grew up in Wilmington. In Delaware.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you were in DC. Were you doing an externship somewhere? Like, how did you connect with chefs and get experience? More experience.
While I was in culinary school, I had stage arrangement with Minibar. So I kind of head straight there after school. And I really, really, really wanted to work at Comey. It was this kind of
I've been there.
Rest in peace, Comey. And although they're still, in the space doing amazing things in the form of Gemini now. Which is a much more casual concept. That's kind of also like a natural wine store, and they sell ice cream branded as Happy Ice Cream, which is absolutely amazing. I really wanted to work there. It was this kind of like mysterious place that kept getting number one on every list. It was like Washington Post, Washingtonian. It was beloved by all the critics down there. Johnny was like a fixture on the Rising Stars, JBF award list. And then when I guess he aged out of that was a recurring nominee on the Mid-Atlantic list. And it just, the few pictures that would escape the four walls of that restaurant, because there was a no photograph policy, and it was very intimately, lit.
Yeah, it was dark. I don't remember the no photos, but I think it was a hard place to take photos.
It was that. And I think that, the no photo policy, it wasn't like if they caught you taking a photo, you were going to get kicked out. But this is an age where, iPhones didn't have particularly sophisticated cameras anyway.
Right.
If somebody was going to take a good picture, it was going to require pulling out some large piece of equipment. So anyway, like the pictures that did escape were either, related to press or, these kind of like grainy images in a poorly lit room. But I could tell it was just different from anything that I was seeing otherwise in DC. And I had heard really great things about the culture there. And I really wanted to work there. So sort of started dropping my resume repeatedly. And it did not seem like it was going to work out, but sort of right at the last moment, as I was getting off the metro to walk into another restaurant and accept the externship offer, I got a call from their sous chef, John Seibert, chef owner of Tail Up Goat now. And, that's kind of how that happened. It was very fortuitous for me, super formative experience, just like the tightest knit team. It's a 5-day restaurant. So we all kind of had our 2 days off together, which is
nice.
like something that I think is not discussed often, but I do find that restaurants that have that 5-day dynamic, that culture of camaraderie becomes sort of inevitable, much more so than restaurants that are open 7 days a week. And
That's interesting because, I don't know, restaurants open 7 days a week. That's just hard. I mean, there's, not even have a day where you're closed or off. But it sounds, though, like the people you worked with, you also wanted to spend time with.
For sure. They hired on the basis of personality. It wasn't like, come in here and show us that you can like perfectly brunoise a shallot in 15 seconds and cook a perfect French omelet and, then we'll maybe consider you.
Right.
It was very clear that they were hiring people that they wanted to spend time with, and they were confident that they could, develop the technique and kind of nudge you into the mold that they needed from you. So as a result, everybody got along incredibly well. And, the food was spectacular. The service was perfect. Just a really magical place. And I think, I was texting with my friend Arjav on the way over here, and we were like, it really felt like a moment. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they had some incredibly like talented folks who came in behind us, like that era, and remained in, an amazing restaurant for sure. But there was something about like the moment that we were there that just felt really special.
Yeah.
And people have gone on to do some awesome things for sure. So,
yeah, that's wonderful. So what happened after that? What led you to Philadelphia?
I wanted to be closer to home. There was kind of like a medical situation going on with my parents. And I wanted to be a 30-minute drive instead of a 2-hour drive. And, it just like, in addition to that, I just kind of felt myself being pulled to Philly. For me, Philly growing up was the big city. Wilmington, as well as being, kind of a medium-sized city with its own thing going on, is also somewhat of a, kind of bedroom community for Philadelphia. A lot of folks commute in both directions for work, and we're all Philadelphia sports fans. When we played hooky in high school, it was to like go get a cheesesteak on South Street. And, I just felt that pull. So that is kind of how that went down. Yeah. And I connected with the folks at Zahav, and they, made me an offer to come join their team, and took it. So.
It's amazing. I love Zahav and Michael Solomonoff. He's been on the show. He's in my book too, Chefwise.
Yeah.
So you're at Zahav, and what year is this now? Where are we?
We're in 2011.
Okay.
Roundabout. Yeah.
Okay. So you were there.
Maybe 12.
What got
2012.
you? Let's jump to you opening your own concepts. Was it first with Stock?
Stock, Fishtown was the first thing that I opened. Yeah.
And was that after Zahav, or there was more in the middle?
It was after.
Okay.
I mean, I gave my notice at Zahav in order to open this super DIY, like low budget thing that was Stock Fishtown. And I think everybody kind of looked at me like I was crazy. I remember distinctly when I told Mike that I was going to do this thing in Fishtown, he was like, it wasn't the concept that raised his eyebrows, which, in retrospect, like maybe that would have been the thing that raised eyebrows, but it was the fact that it was in Fishtown, which is ironic, right? Because like Cook and Solo has this huge foothold in Fishtown now. Flash forward 10 years, but it was like sort of a dismissive, like, why would you ever open something in Fishtown? But that was the era of Fishtown at that time. Like, it just was not the F&B kind of, like cornerstone of the city that it is now.
I mean, I was jump ahead a little, looking at your map on your website, and which was nice because you pinpointed places like Kalaya and like to see the relationship and all the things in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I remember, was it a La Colombe coffee?
Yeah, La Colombe. Yeah. There's
I went to that. Like, it was a very cool, like, warehousey sort of space.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that still around?
It sure is. Okay. Yeah. I mean, despite, La Colombe has since been acquired by Chobani, and it's kind of this mega business now. But that was, I would say, maybe like the second wave of F&B development in the neighborhood was the La Colombe launch. Yeah. So the first, there were some institutions that have been there for some time, but, Stephen Starr came and planted his flag on Frankfurt Avenue, which is the main commercial corridor. And, that I think that really kind of opened up the trajectory for Fishtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Because I went to Stock. You had a second location. You had two in total?
Yeah. So
I went to the second location, I believe.
Which was more of like a kind of fast casual play.
Yeah.
It was, thank you. It was in the kind of center city commercial district, like equidistant from the Rittenhouse and Logan Square. So you're kind of very walkable to, people in office towers, walkable to the big condo buildings around Rittenhouse. And the idea was that would sort of be an extrapolation of Stock that was a little less service oriented and more about, selling more of our food to more people.
Yeah. And your food, so it was Southeast Asian soup and noodles?
Yeah, soup was like kind of the basis, and actually found a hard copy of our opening menu at Stock Fishtown recently. It was like literally 6 items. It was like a beef pho, a mushroom pho, like a raw beef salad, some other kind of salad, and it was tiny. We had 3 induction burners and a toaster oven. We had no hood. It was as bootstrap as you could possibly imagine.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but you were successful. I mean, you got attention.
Yeah.
It was delicious. People were coming. You opened a second location. And then you opened Resipsa. Am I saying that right?
Resipsa? Yeah. Yeah.
That's close.
Resipsa was in between those 2 Stock locations. And I have to give credit where it's due. There are a couple of people who I'm so grateful for when I think back about how all these things went down. There were a couple of people who really kind of put a spotlight on Stock in a way that, maybe another sort of sous chef who was walking out the back door of Zahav after a couple of years, might not have gotten the attention that we got. And it was, Alex Tufik, who went on to be the Eater Philly editor, the Philadelphia Magazine food editor, and now actually operates his own restaurant, which is a really unique sort of pattern. And Drew Laser as well. Both of them had gone to Little Cerro in DC, which is the sister restaurant to Comey, and that I was on the opening team for. And they loved that restaurant so much. They were like, holy shit, a guy who cooked there. And then Zahav is now going to try doing Southeast Asian food, and, really kind of gave me an opportunity to, hit the ground running in a way. So it was tiny. We had 18 seats. It was BYO. It was absolutely the most humid place in the world because we were simmering stock all day without a hood. But it was kind of my launching pad.
And
Resipsa.
Was it near the second stock?
It was
nearish.
Somewhat.
We went to that too, like a late breakfast or lunch.
Okay.
And also it was fantastic.
The breakfast sandwich had a real following there, which we kind of modeled on like the Wawa breakfast sandwich. And, dinner was super special there. It was like very intimate, boisterous, and, BYO. So it was just great food, and we had some real like serious wine heads who were regulars there just because they wanted a place where they could have great food and bring their really nice wine. But that was in the West Rittenhouse neighborhood as well.
Yeah, which as a tourist coming in, I'm more likely to be in that neighborhood than Fishtown, even though Fishtown now has so much going on. I'm going to be a regular there, I think, next time I visit.
It was super convenient for, one of the things, some of the wind in our sails at Resipsa maybe a little bit was, it was right across the bridge from University City. So there's this phenomenon in Philadelphia where kind of once a year, there's this massive influx of, chefs and food media, and this is all attributable to the chef conference. Mike Trout's chef conference, and we were kind of like walkable to the chef conference.
I did
stuff,
that.
So
I'm an example.
I think that was like that was a very helpful coincidence for us.
Yeah. So then, what happened? Was it pandemic? I mean, what happened over the next couple of years before leading to where we should talk about what you're doing now and all this accolades and amazing things with your new restaurant, but you closed both concepts? Or
all three.
All three?
Yeah.
Okay, at
Clean
the same
slate.
time?
Effectively, more or less, although it didn't really announce each of their closures concurrently, so quietly we kind of ceased operations on all three around the same time. And there were unique reasons for each closure. But I think like the overarching couple of reasons in my mind were the fact that, I had finally, it was delayed because of the pandemic, but finally gotten Le Cave open at the Hotel DuPont in September of 2020. And
sorry, I pronounced that name wrong.
No, it's quite all right. That's an abbreviation, Le Cave. That's like shorthand.
Well, I like it.
It works. Yeah, it's been embraced by the community.
Le Cave.
I think, we all in the restaurant industry, I think, fall into this pattern of not really making time for ourselves to look around and consider the big picture and what we're actually doing with our lives. And I think when I finally had a moment to, think about where I was heading and what I wanted to do, it became clear to me that these tiny restaurants that, again, like no regrets, and they got me where I am today, but a little restaurant has all the same problems as a big restaurant. You just can't afford the managers to help you, manage all those problems, whether they're facilities or HR or anything else. All those problems exist. It's very hard to have that layer that allows you to maintain some degree of order in your own life. And, I kind of, again, there were other reasons, like the fact that people did not go back to work in offices. So what is a fast casual kind of independent supposed to do in that circumstance? The writing was on the wall there at Stock Rittenhouse, and, Resipsa, there were a number of things going on there. And Stock Fishtown, I had sort of resolved in my mind to wind down at some point in the near future before the pandemic. It was just, again, facilities issues. That space was really not built for restaurant usage. And I don't know, I kind of took the opportunity to promise myself that I was not going to do a tiny BYO restaurant again.
Yeah.
And that it just wasn't, it was not the lifestyle that I wanted to lead.
Well, tying into my show theme today and starting new or new beginnings. New beginnings can be, or closings too, scary and uncomfortable or, we don't know what's next, but they can lead to new, beautiful things.
Yeah, I agree. And embarrassing too, because the whole time you're wrestling with these decisions, it's not just what's right for me, but also what are other people going to think about this, What are other people going to think about what's going on with you or what's going, where you're at, where you're heading. So it was a lot of feelings and kind of bundled up in that, but I am quite confident that I made the right decisions.
Well, I would agree with that. Let's talk about what you're doing now and why you're here in New York City. So what led you to open Bastia? And you're part of a boutique hotel in Fishtown. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did that come about?
We opened in August. Yeah.
In August.
So we're
just in August.
We're about to turn 4 months old. We are still a little infant of a restaurant.
I did know that through Gia. Yes.
Yeah. She's probably told you that it's been 4 months since I've been home at night. Which is not far from the truth.
But congratulations. So what led to this opening?
Long story short, I lived in an apartment building in South Kensington, the neighborhood next to Fishtown, owned by a guy who was a big stock Fishtown regular. He and I started working on a grocery concept on the ground floor of the building I was living in. And we were kind of permits had been pulled, branding had been done, and the pandemic hit and put it on the shelf, kind of shook hands and agreed it would be great to work together again at some point. And, flash forward 4 years, our mutual friend, Veronica Blum, who's the best commercial real estate agent in the restaurant space in Philly, kind of approached me and was like, hey, I know you said that, the pandemic has stung you a little and you're not sure you want to do more restaurants, but there's this really cool project and I can't tell you much about it, but it's this really cool new hotel in Fishtown. I was like, yeah, I'll definitely look at that. And turns out it was Dor, who was the gentleman I'd been working on the grocery concept with. And I put together a kind of concept pitch after seeing the space and seeing their overarching hotel brand deck, and it seemed like a good fit. So, they took the leap to kind of partner with me, and here we are.
Yeah. And what type of cuisine are you doing? Because it's different than what you've done in the past.
It is. Yeah. It is, really anchored by Corsican and Sardinian food. So, these are neighboring islands in the Mediterranean that, one obviously leans French because it is French, but has this kind of deep history of, having been ruled by Genoese. So Corsica, yes, there's French traditions all throughout the cuisine, but there's also this kind of identifiable Italian stamp on it. And Sardinia is really its own animal. It's not Southern Italian, it's not Sicilian. It really has its own food identity within the Italian framework. So, we have found them to be super complementary. I'm having a ton of fun and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, well, I have to get back to Philly because I haven't been yet, and I really want to come. And it sounds so amazing. You also have the bar that you're doing, Coletta. Mm-hmm. You're doing the food menu there to match it?
Yeah. The food at Coletta is more overtly Italian, not going to see much French influence there. We're doing small, snacky stuff like arancini and arrosticini skewers, and we have a burger that's fantastic, and I've got to plug that burger. But it's more kind of snacky bar food.
And it's a great burger.
it is. I'm proud of it. Yeah.
And tonight is Esquire magazine's The Best New Chefs in America celebration in New York, which I'm going to, you're going to. You're going to be honored there with being on their list, and also with Eater Philadelphia as Best New Restaurant. I mean, what does that mean to you? How does it feel?
It feels good. I mean, it feels like a vindication of the concept, which, I think there was a healthy dose of skepticism. It's like Corsican and Sardinian, I mean, I can't name a restaurant in Philly, certainly, that's really specializing in either one of those, let alone trying to do both. And really, like, nationwide, there's not a lot of representation of those two cuisines. So I feel vindicated that this was, the grass was green conceptually, which I think was naturally sort of questioned along the way. I feel super proud and grateful for, everything the team has done, to get us there, because it's not best new chef, it's best new restaurant. And that's not just me. It's a whole team of over 30 people who come in and make it super awesome for our guests every night, They really take pride in everything they do. And, I'm just here as the restaurant's representative, really.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I was looking at what Joshua David Stein wrote in Esquire, and a part of it, he says, another sleek and well-funded Mediterranean place in a new boutique hotel, Phooey. But the chef, Tyler Akin, is a man on fire. Man on fire. And he's such a good writer. And I feel like him and Jeff Gordinaire and their whole team really does a nice job covering the country and finding the best new restaurants. So.
Yeah, they do. They do an amazing job. And I wish that I had the time and money to kind of like grab that issue every year and
go everywhere.
Yeah,
it's a big list. I mean,
it's really daunting to think about how many restaurants they've eaten at in order to establish that like annotated list.
Yeah, it's 35 spots they have.
Yeah.
So, and Omar Mamoun also, and Amethyst Ganaway, they all contributed. So,
yeah. I'm grateful.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question for you from my episode 400. I had asked Michael Mina, who was my guest on that show, to ask you a question. And anyone not familiar with Michael, he's an award-winning chef and founder and executive chairman of the Mina Group, which is a collection of over 30 chef-driven concepts, including Pabu, Sorrel, Mina's Fish House, and Bourbon Steak, which just opened. I did my interview with him this summer, and it's now on Central Park South.
In the Essex House, right?
Yeah, it's this beautiful steakhouse he has.
Yeah.
We did the interview there, and so I asked him to ask you a question. So his question,
goodness. Michael Mina?
Michael Mina.
Wow.
Yes, the Michael Mina.
Yeah.
He wants to know, well, he said, I gave him a little of your background. He said, it sounds like you're doing a number of restaurants. How did you find your designers for the restaurants? And how comfortable and involved are you with them? And he said how design has so much to do with like when you're expanding and like, developing restaurants.
Yeah, it's essential. I am... I say that, but at the same time, I mean, there was very little design to my first few restaurants, and they, enjoyed some measure of commercial, and critical success. But, I think in the larger format restaurants that are really built to survive and, attract more people than my humble little spots did, design is critical. And I'm so grateful to be in the position that I'm in, that, my entire workload is not, the things that a chef would ordinarily do. I find that it appeals to my ADHD, to kind of like bounce between standing over a cutting board and looking at, a set of shop drawings for millwork, in a restaurant, and I would say each project, you land with a different design. I mean, Mike, he's asking me a question he knows the answer to, frankly. He could answer it better than me. But, for the sake of listeners, a variety of circumstances with each project kind of lead you where you ultimately land. Often there is a process, and this in the PR world, called an RFP, which is a request for proposal. And an architecture or a design firm will essentially, kind of work with the vague, kind of broad brushstrokes that you provide about the project to, kind of give you a sense of A, what their fees and budget would be, and B, kind of like where they would take this loosely defined concept that you've sort of given them a general understanding of, without oversharing and kind of like, giving away the house in the process. So that becomes, a game of, value versus what you think they can add to the project. And with Le Cave, and that's a design that I'm super proud of, I got to know the good people at Stokes Architecture, which is sort of the preeminent Philadelphia-based hospitality architecture house. And they've done stuff for Star and Defined Hospitality and other groups. There is Rich Stokes is a genius, and he's the principal of the firm, but he has a director of design and now partner in the firm named Lance Saunders, who is like, I don't hang out with him much, but I consider him a really good friend. He's a real visionary. He's around my age and just does incredible work. So as I've moved through other projects, even when Lance is not the architect of record or the chief designer, I still find myself kind of like going back to Lance, asking him to look at something to give a litmus test. In the case of Anna and Belle, which is super design forward, beautiful property that's winning design awards. They had already engaged an architecture firm in Tel Aviv on that project that had done the kind of general design of the hotel, and resultingly, like we're involved in the restaurant design. But really the secret weapon on that project was a woman named Sigita, and I will butcher her last name, but I'm going to attempt Stravinskate.
Perfect.
Sigita is super talented, great taste. And I found myself seeing eye to eye with her. Every space has its own desires, and I think that is my approach, is like trying to listen to what the space wants and what the concept wants, instead of trying to like impose something that you had in your mind before really understanding the building or understanding what your own concept was, so I think it's a pretty organic process, but I love it. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Awesome. Yeah, I love my questions from my guests because that was a good one. They're usually very good ones. Great answer. So, okay, before we move on to my speed round, I have two questions. Mm-hmm. How do you manage your time? Barely. Okay, good. And next, even when you had stock, you're doing a lot between, running family, running restaurants, going to award celebrations. I do not run the family, for the record. You're in the family, though. But it is, it's a lot. And I empathize with anybody in our industry that's trying to balance parenting with what we do. It's a real challenge. Yeah. Well, you're somehow managing it. You and Gia, your team, love seeing everything you guys have accomplished. It's really amazing. Okay, last question here is, what's your top advice for aspiring young cooks? I have this book out, Chefwise. You came to one of my talks in Philly, which it was awesome to have you there. And so I know you're familiar, but what's your chef advice? My chef advice, I think like the last couple of years, there's been a lot of talk about work-life balance, and I think that's great. A friend of mine, Akira, who had Combi out in LA, like I remember like halfway through the pandemic, as that conversation really escalated, he put up a series of posts that I could not have agreed with more, along the lines of like, if your priority from the outset is work-life balance, how are you ever going to get the experience to ultimately maybe operate your own thing? Like there are no guardrails for your time or your attention if you're running your own restaurant, or if you're even trying to be an amazing employee for another person's restaurant. So I think like my advice would be, A, don't take the highest paying job, because that's probably not where you're going to learn the most. B, work insane hours and learn as much as you possibly can. Don't, don't say my 2 days have to be, consecutive. Don't say, you told me this was going to be a 50-hour-a-week job, and, I'm now on my 51st hour, so I'm going to be miserable and resentful. Like, if you want to become good at this and you want to, do things that are interesting and good, I really think it takes a lot more time than 40 or 50 hours a week to get there. It's just a fact. There's no way to kind of shortcut your way to understanding your own culinary voice, or, having like the technique that you need to be in a position where you can teach other people what you want them to do. Yeah. Yeah. That's like kind of, I guess, a hot take, because it's all about work-life balance now. But like, if you really want to, like, I'm not saying this from any position of authority, because I'm not like, one of the big stars, but I will say I'm confident in my abilities. And the reason I am is because I put the hours in.
Yeah. Well, you have a tremendous amount of experience, and you have accomplished a lot, and you are being recognized because you are an outstanding chef. So,
thank you.
And restaurateur. So, congratulations. Thank you for your tip. Let's go to my speed round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to name a couple of things, and you get to pick your preference, like chocolate or vanilla is my example.
Okay.
Here we go. Eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant?
Eat out.
Indoor dining or al fresco dining?
Indoor.
Wine, beer, cocktail, spiritless drink, or champagne?
Depends on the occasion, but champagne.
Tasting menu or a la carte?
A la carte.
Small plates or large plates?
Medium.
Medium plates. Let's get some medium plates. What do you have at your restaurant? You got small, large? You got some medium?
We had some medium.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could go either way.
Burger might be medium.
Go either way.
I don't know what you classify a burger.
Although our burger is literally a burger on a plate. There's no fries on the side. It's just a burger on a plate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have fries you can get?
We have fries. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Ups. Got it. Okay. A couple more. Communal table or chef's counter?
Chef's counter.
Tipping or all-inclusive charge?
Tipping.
Pat's or Geno's?
Ooh, this is going to get me in some hot water. I was a Pat's guy. Pat's really engenders like the ethos of Philadelphia. It's scrappy. It's poorly lit. It's not as clean or bright. However, as I realized after having had this whole no, that's not Philly. That looks like Times Square over there. I finally brought myself to trying a Geno's cheesesteak about 6 years ago, and it's better. Okay. I'm really sorry, but it is.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah.
I need to do a new taste test. I remember I went to both in the same, I did not finish them. I wasn't even close, but I think I was more Geno's, but I think I liked them both.
I had been I will say I had been a Pat's guy for about 20 years prior to that kind of realization. So,
all right, good to know.
I like your speed round. I
Thank
can do
you.
That all night.
Okay, I got three more. You're good. You're good. You're getting the speed, and I like your answers. Okay, planes, trains, or automobiles?
Trains.
Trains. You do take them now more often coming here?
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoy trains.
Yeah, I like trains too.
Yeah.
Cheese plate or dessert?
dessert?
Manhattan, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, any other city, Wilmington.
The question being, what's the best?
This one has never made sense in my game,
just
and
open-ended. Oh man!
When I have cocktail people on the show, they think Manhattan or Brooklyn cocktails.
Yeah.
However you want to interpret it.
Philly and Wilmington.
Okay. Good. Fair. They both win. And that's the game. You win. I brought you my only industry hat.
Thank you so much.
That was my little game prize.
I love it. I'm going to bust this out tonight. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Okay, so we'll quickly do industry news. I had the Esquire's Best New Restaurants in America 2024, which we've talked a bit about. People can go check out the list. It's a great list. They have restaurants in Los Angeles, Minneapolis, in New York, Sailor, Demo, Penny, which I love. Tolo I went to the other night was great. 425, where we're going tonight. John George's restaurant, and Laveau d'Or, comeback of the year.
Yeah.
So, and as you noted, or we noted earlier, if we could just take the magazine and travel for a year and go to all these places would be fun and nice.
It would be fun and nice.
Was there any places on the list that like stood out to you besides your own where you're like, I love that place, or I have to get there?
Well, shout out to Amy's, our neighbor down the street, which is a very like modest corner space selling empanadas, like Puerto Rican.
Nice.
My Spanish is poor, but I believe it's pastillos. So it's like a Puerto Rican empanada, essentially.
Okay.
Lying out the door every day, incredibly, kind owner, talented woman who is just killing it over there. So shout out to her. I had a great meal at Quad last year and would very much like to go to Penny as soon as possible.
Penny's awesome.
Yeah.
I did one of my solo dining experiences on Penny.
Yeah.
It's just, if you like seafood.
Yeah.
Go.
So it's funny, you asked about design earlier when Bastia, when we got to the point we were like choosing slabs of marble for the bar tops and the tabletops, one of the less prominent, like marble operations down in South Philly, we visited to see what they had. And it turns out that's where Penny had sourced their marble top from.
They have a beautiful...
Is that wild? Yeah.
Marble
Philly,
white.
Of all place.
Yeah. And it's a simplistic restaurant. But it's beautiful. It's just long and narrow and one big chef's counter bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go to them all.
Okay.
It's really hard to choose. So
yeah.
I think as I, lock in some travel next year, I will certainly be looking to visit as many as possible.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, because I find I'm most familiar with New York and the neighboring cities, but there's, lots of places I want to check out over the country. And also for industry news, the Michelin Awards were a couple of nights ago in New York, celebrating New York, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. They did this combo or trio last year as well. So this is the 2024 Michelin Guide, and Eater wrote a piece on it entitled Jung-Sink is New York's first new 3-starred Michelin restaurant in 12 years. New York's Michelin stars were announced at the ceremony on Monday. And this was by Melissa McCart and Lainey Doss. So it's very exciting. I went to Jung-Sink before the pandemic, and I had been once before many, many years ago. And my experience this last time, or both times, was outstanding. I mean, it's a really fabulous restaurant. I don't think it gets talked about that much these days. So I think it was a kind of nice surprise that they got, it's a big deal to get 3 Michelin stars. I mean, it's a big deal to get 1, but to be in that small category they have. So congratulations to them. I went to Asia's 50 Best Restaurants in Seoul earlier this year, and I met the owner of Jung-Sink because they have the original is in Seoul.
Oh, cool.
And super nice. And so I feel a little connected that I have a relationship there. But
that's amazing. Yeah, congratulations to them and all of the Michelin honorees. Shout out to Jill Tyler from Tail Up Goat, who won a service award.
Yeah.
Johnny Spiro at Reverie, Zach Engel at Galit, Who else? Amanda Cowan. Congrats. Like how many years in a row for Amanda? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand the Michelin Awards, but I'm always happy for the people who get them.
Yes. And I like celebrating the industry, chefs, and all the hard work that you guys do. So yeah, it's nice to see the recognition, and yeah, super happy for everyone. The list online, it's too long for us to go through it all, but
I just name checked a few.
Yeah, you did.
Congrats.
And yeah, very happy for everyone on the list. And before I get to my solo dining experience, I have some very sad news to share. A colleague, a friend, Francine Cohen, passed away last week on December 4th at the age of 58 because of sudden health issues. She was a longtime industry friend, journalist, and connector, covering culinary, spirits, and cocktails, and someone who I met very early on in my PR career. And she made a big impact in the industry as a journalist. She covered food and beverage, but I think I consider myself, I'm a little more on the food side, and she was a little more on the beverage side and spirits, and really sad about it. She's someone that I also knew through organizations that I was involved in, such as the New York Women's Culinary Alliance, which I was president of for a time, and La Dame d'Escoffier. And she was a past guest on this show, episode 114 in 2016, where she talked about her career as well as Tales of the Cocktail, which she knew best. And on social, I posted about an article that I wrote back in 2009 for Food and Beverage magazine when Francine was the magazine's editor-in-chief. And it's entitled, "Are We Done Mocking Mocktails?" And this was at a time where people really weren't talking about NA drinks as they are today. And Francine gave me a platform to write this piece. So I'm truly grateful for that and for our friendship and her support over the years. My sincerest condolences to her husband, Jake, and Francine's entire family, friends, and colleagues, and everyone that knew her and loved her. She will be greatly missed. Rest in peace. So I have a solo dining experience this week, of course, and I'm going to take you to London, outside of London. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go. Sounds great.
Okay, so this week, my solo dining experience is at the Sportsman. Here's the rundown. The location, Faversham Road, Sea Salter, Whitstable, UK. The concept, it's a pub by the sea. The chef and owner is Stephen Harris. Why did I go? Well, they have a Michelin star, and Stephen is in my Chefwise book. And I hadn't met him before, but I was in London, and I decided to go to this restaurant, which is on the outskirts. It's about an hour and a half outside of the city. I got there one way by car and coming back by train because it's between two towns, Whitstable and Faversham. And I was concerned about like finding it and getting there. So I took a car there. When my driver got close, you're really like kind of rural countryside outside London, which I hadn't been to before. So it was like nice to see. And my driver is like, "Where are you going? You're going to a restaurant?" And he's like, "Are you meeting someone?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Why are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going for lunch." And he's like confused. I'm like, "It's just what I do."
Yeah.
Just what I do. I'm going solo to this restaurant outside of London for lunch. And it was nice because Stephen was there. I got to meet him and his staff was lovely. And I pulled up. It's this like big country house, I describe it. It kind of reminded me of being like in Maine and like the big B&B inns there, that sort of feel. And I had a lovely meal. I brought my copy of Chefwise and got Chef to sign it. And it was really fantastic. So what did I get? I went with their 5-course tasting menu. During the weekdays, which it was a weekday lunch, they do have a 3-course midweek menu, but I decided to go with 5-course because like when the opportunity, to be there in Whitstable, take it. So I got the 5-course tasting, and you had to pick dishes as a part of it in the different courses. So what did I get? I had a rock oyster. I had little snacks with bread and house-churned butter with sea salter salt. He makes his own salt. I had mushroom celeriac and hollandaise tart. I had slip sole, the fish, which I think is kind of a signature dish of theirs, grilled with seaweed butter. It was like a whole fish. It was perfect. I also got roast breast of Aylesbury duck with spice roasting juices, and for dessert, Bramley apple souffle with vanilla ice cream and caramel. And my take, it was all delicious, and it was a lot of food. I mean, very good value. And I feel like I would totally go back and have different choices in each category. You can't go wrong. Okay, so the ambiance, it's charming, rustic, cozy inn. As I said, feels kind of like a B&B. Mm-hmm. Traditional feel, lots of blonde woods, big windows, natural light. I'd say it's perfect for going solo or with friends. Interesting tidbit. The restaurant has 1 Michelin star, and the inn has stood there since 1642, and its reputation continues to bring diners from across the country. Should I ask, have you heard of the Sportsman?
I haven't, no, but as you're describing it, I'm like, this sounds incredibly idyllic and pastoral, and I want to go there.
It's really great because it's casual. I think people like it because it's very comfortable space, but elevated food. And he's a self-taught chef. Yeah. And he also has a book with Fiden that came out before mine called The Sportsman. So, and Cool. He's super nice. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Personal fun fact, I was in London because I was en route to Dubai, mm-hmm. which was my first time going to Dubai. And I went to the Best Chef Awards, which was amazing. And stay tuned because my next show coming up is going to be my coverage of the Best Chef Awards from Dubai 2024. The cost of my meal was 91.5 pounds. That's not including a 10% service charge. That's a good deal.
That's a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a better deal than if you had Salt Bay in Dubai, I would imagine.
I did not have Salt Bay in Dubai. I don't even know if he's... Now I have to Google that later. I had amazing food in Dubai, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. No, it's a very good value because it was more food than really.
That's amazing.
You leave there
Yeah.
full. Would I go back? Yes, their website's The Sportsman, seasalter.co.uk, and Instagram at Sportsman Kent. So there you go. Thank you, Stephen Harris and team. I really had a lovely time. It's time for the final question. We're going to wrap things soon. So the final question. My next guest, or an upcoming guest, I should say, because I think I'm going to have a couple shows in between, but I'm having on Gary He. He is the author of his first book called McAtlas, a global guide to the Golden Arches, which just came out. So it's a book on all the McDonald's around the world. I ordered a copy. It looks fascinating. I can't wait to get it. Gary is a James Beard award-winning photographer and writer based in Brooklyn, and his style of on-the-ground visuals, driven storytelling has been published in the New York Times, Bloomberg, Bon Appetit, Eater, and Saveur. It's very accomplished. So Tyler, can you please ask a question for Gary?
Wow. Where is the coolest McDonald's play place?
Play place?
Yes.
Like, okay, yeah.
Because we used to drive to spring break in Sanibel every March. And I remember there was one like north of Orlando that was a stop every year. And it was just this like sprawling, I mean, it blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind as a kid. So that I feel like I could ask like more politically charged questions about McDonald's and.
Oh, I'll leave those to me.
Yeah, but I'm curious about the play place and where the most magical play place is.
Okay, yeah. I like that question. That's a fun one.
Do you want to redo?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
All right.
I wasn't. That's your question, and it's a great one. My follow up might be is like, did he play on it?
Did you play on it, Gary?
Well, I guess you'd have to if you to like call it the best, or like
Yeah.
you have to experience it, right?
Yeah, I think there might be like age restrictions, but
Okay.
I haven't tried to jump in one recently. They're few and far between these days.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a country where there's still kind of in every McDonald's has a play place, but
He's probably going to say it's in the book too.
yeah, which
Well,
is
we'll
great.
see. So we'll
Yeah.
sell more copies to go get the book. But I'm excited to have him on. Very excited to have had you on today,
Thank
joining
you.
me. Thank you for coming to me in New York City.
Thanks for having me.
And congratulations on everything you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And you should be very proud. It's
Thank you so
exciting
much.
stuff.
It was really lovely to be on. I'm honored.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm
Thank
honored. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up. My guest today has been Tyler Akin. He's the founder of Form Function Hospitality. He's chef partner of Bastia at the Hotel Anna and Bell in Philadelphia's Fishtown neighborhood, which also has its cocktail bar Coletta. And he is also chef partner of
Belier, Le Cab, yeah, the
Le
Hotel
Cab.
DuPont. Yeah.
Okay. At the Hotel DuPont in Wellington, Delaware. Also a place I'd like to check out. Sounds fantastic. Okay. Social media, I know you're at Tyler_Akin. Any others you want to give a shout out, or that's the best way to find you?
That's the best way to find me. At Form Function Hospitality. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not very active on there.
And your
so, yeah.
website, you got formfunctionhospitality.com.
Correct.
And okay.
I'd love to hear from you.
Reach out.
I'm out here. All right.
Reach out.
Cool.
You can follow me at Shari Bayer at Bayer PR and at All Industry. My YouTube channel is All in the Industry. My Facebook page is All in the Industry. My new website is allintheindustry.com. You'll find all of our shows there, all of our archive shows there, and all of our shows will be available wherever you listen to your podcasts. So please subscribe. And also, please, if you have a moment, leave us a rating and review. It will help more people find our show. Greatly appreciate it. Tyler's putting on the hat. My book, Chefwise, Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World by Fiden, available wherever books are sold. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer. Thanks to my engineer, Armin, for helping me out. Thanks to Gia Vecchio from Foxglove Communications. She's fantastic. Thank you, Gia. And thank you, Tyler, again. I'll be back soon with a new show. Hope you'll tune in then. And thank you, as always, for being part of All in the Industry. Bye. All in the Industry is an independent podcast hosted and produced by Shari Bayer. Follow us on Instagram at All Industry and on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, All in the Industry. Subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcasts so you don't miss any new episodes. To learn more, visit allintheindustry.com.